and welcome to Tarmac. I'm Dave.
I'm Matthew, and you probably have two questions for us right now. Number one, is that a Supra? Well, yes it is. And number two, haven't you done one of these before? Well, yes, we have, but this one is not like those previous ones.
That's right, so this is basically the beautiful Supra, which is a sports car, which aka is the carrot, and inside is a stick. Come, let's take a look at this. Okay, as Matthew pointed out, we've already done the review on the Supra, but the automatic Supra, but this is something special being the manual. Get to that in a moment. The big thing to point out here is this paintwork. Look at it. They're calling it Sub-Zero white, and it makes sense because it's white and Sub-Zero, and also look at it, it's so cool. Round the wheels here, they're 19 inches and they're 255s on the front, and just amazing. Actually, they're wider on the back at 275, but also the calipers here are in red, both front and rear, but also on the front here, the front calipers are in silver Supra, or Supra is in silver. How cool is that? Let's check under the bonnet. Okay, dad joke, brace yourself. Anyway, what we've got here is exactly the same powertrain as in the Auto. So it's a 3-litre straight six with a twin scroll turbo. And actually, coincidentally, it gives off the same power. So 285 kilowatts of power and 500 newton meters of torque. However, it's actually less efficient. So 9.9 litres per 100 kilometers in fuel efficiency, and 225 grams of emissions out of the exhaust, and it's mated to an intelligent, I don't know what intelligent means, 6-speed manual gearbox. So what that means is actually slower off the line, so 4.2 seconds 0 to 100 as opposed to the 4 seconds 0 to 100 in the automatic box. So there you go. It is slower to have a manual, but it is more fun to have a manual.
So this has just become an option on the Supra, and magically, it's actually a no-cost option. So the automatic and the manual, at least in New Zealand, are exactly the same price. But the issue is you can't have either this year. The allocation for 2023 is already sold out. So if you are after one, you will have to place your interest for a 2024 model year car. That really just explains everything in terms of how much demand there has been for a manual Supra of this generation. And rightly so, because it just feels really good to hold. The shifting of the gears. Granted, as Dave will talk about later, space down the footwell is a little bit tight for 3 pedals, but it's still really special to have a proper manual gearbox in a proper sports car like this Supra. And granted that it's a proper sports car, you don't have any back seats. In fact, the boot space there is minimal. I think it's 280 liters or something, if that. You get 2 proper sports seats over here, leather and Alcantara, and the cabin in general feels really a nice place to be in. Even though it's, the roofline is sloping and it can be a little bit dark in here, it's all about the drive and all about the feel, and you do feel so nicely cocooned in here as the driver with your manual gear shifter there. You've got your lovely red and black leather steering wheel here, and it just really is an exceptional place to be. And then again, if you aren't giving it the beans and listening to that turbocharged 6-cylinder engine, you can turn up the 12-speaker JBL audio system and have that fill the space with some nice music. And actually, the interior, the color is ignition red. The other option is black, but I'd say do justice to this car and get the ignition red because it looks pretty special. Speaking of special things, well, the infotainment screen is exactly the same as the automatic Supra, so I won't go into depth with that, but you do get wireless Apple CarPlay, and fun fact, you do actually get 20 GB of storage for your music on there, so they have thought about some of the practicalities in that sense too. But alright, enough of me blabbering on now. I think it's probably time that we take it for a drive, so let's do that.
Okay, so the good thing, although it's a 4.2 seconds 0 to 100, it's still pretty bloody fast. And kicks its ass out brilliantly. Try doing that in an Auto. So, the new Supra, or 5th generation Supra, and now with a manual gearbox, which is not going to be for everybody, but half of me thinks it should be, because it really is more of an involved drive. It may be slower, partially 0.2 of a second. It may be, a few odds and ends that make it a little bit quirky, but it is just such more of an involved drive and more of a driver's car, which is what you'd hope for in a Supra.
I mean, in some ways I can think of this car as Akio Toyoda's last hurrah, because he came out of the blue and wanted to, catapult Toyota back into making sports cars and sporty things, and turned the GR brand firstly into a known name with the Yaris, and now the Corolla, the Supra, of course, now a manual Supra, and he's just done amazing things with it. And then to bring out a manual Supra, hats off to you, sir, for everything you've done, and we will miss you, because when is Toyota going to do stuff like this again?
Well, hopefully the legacy just continues, because it's been set in place, so away it goes. Look, we could go on about the gearbox, and we will go on about the gearbox, but it's not just that. The suspension has been tweaked a little bit. The steering ratio has been changed a little bit as well, and also the traction control, although we've had it switched off for a little bit, has been fettled with as well. So it actually makes it harder or quicker to come off the line. So it is the gearbox and also more of the fun stuff.
And the really interesting thing about the traction control is when we had it on earlier and taking some corners, well, how should I say this? At speed, should we say? It's just amazing for a car with rear wheel drive and the kind of power that this has. It just grips as you go around corners. It's almost sort of mind-boggling.
It is. You just feel the rear end digging in as it wants to corner around. It's very, very exciting. And the other exciting thing, which we'll hopefully show you now, is the fact that the torque starts from around about 1600. So you get, regardless of the gear you're in, you're actually getting torque all the way up, so you're getting so much power at ridiculously low speeds, and also it pulls away in sixth gear on the motorway. So if you want to drop it down and listen to that exhaust just scream out, it's lovely.
It is a really sweet sound. And then we were doing 80 or something earlier, 2000 revs, sixth gear. Dave put his foot down and away it just went. It can pull for days, and the noise, you'd always want to be up there in the top of that rev range just because of that.
Yeah, the collaboration, unfortunately this car and also the BMW Z wouldn't be made if they hadn't done the collaboration, but boy, I'm pleased they have.
Absolutely. I think no matter what stick Toyota has gotten, it's been all the better for it, because they've just turned out this amazing sports car. And it's nice for both of the manufacturers to keep two-seater sports cars alive at this sort of price range. It is pretty special, and as car enthusiasts, I think more so we appreciate that even more.
And stick being the operative word, obviously. So about this gearbox, look, I have a few gripes about it, even though, don't get me wrong, big fan of the 6-speed gearbox. The fact is, I think the gear stick should be a little bit lower. I find it rising just that little bit too high. And also the fact of your feet are slightly, almost Italian-wise. The three pedals are actually quite close together, as you would find in something Italian.
That's correct, and I do have quite large feet, I have to admit. And trying out
a bragging thing?
Trying out the clutch and brake earlier just had me sort of almost rubbing my feet together at times. So it is a little bit worrying if I was going for a spirited drive, having that sort of thing going on. But it's still a fun thing to drive.
It also rev matches as well, so when you're coming down gears, you don't have to be able to or need to heel toe to make sure that the gearbox does what it should. So there's no grinding of gears. It's such a solid mechanical feel as you go up and down these six speeds and just engage in some fun and also the reverse, full over, left up, and you're in. So again, it's just, every gear is so easy to find, and that has to be a good thing.
Well, speaking of good things, or rather I'll say more so interesting things, being the passenger here in a right-hand drive Supra, it's really interesting to see the way the center console is all geared towards me. All the buttons, the infotainment screen, even the iDrive system is closer to me. Sorry, iDrive system, I mean infotainment system. And that just tells you that actually it's more geared towards left-hand drive markets. So you do feel a little bit cocooned sitting on the right-hand side, but I don't think that has been a problem so far for Dave.
I'm okay with it, because actually the layout of the base buttons around here are actually a little bit more, they're a little bit wider front than the auto box. So again, it's quite a nice space, and you can actually get your fingers on everything where it needs to be, which is, you know, I guess ideal, really.
The other thing is also the sport button has been given a place of prominence, rightly so, I think.
As if it shouldn't be. The sport button itself is great, does give you more backfirey stuff, so it does give you that lag, so you can get a little bit of backfire. Sorry, I'm just loving that sound. And also on startup, you actually get you can rev all the way up. There's no rev limiter as well, so you can impress your neighbors by just pushing your foot down and letting them know that you're ready to take your GR Supra for a drive. Sorry, your GR Supra Manual for a drive. So there you have it, the carrot of a beautiful sports car, and the amazing stick just to have so much fun. In all honesty, it does add a whole new dimension to a car that was already good. The purists are gonna, I don't know, talk about some of the fact of the automatic rev limiting and the rev downshifting limiting, things like that, but you can switch it off. I just don't want to, because I'm just not very, you know, heel and toey, but it does actually just give such good fun. And I don't know, my whole left side is now involved in the drive, rather than me normally just relaxing and doing my thing.
I mean, kudos to Toyota for making this Supra, for bringing it back and then putting a manual gearbox in it, because it is just spectacular.
And maybe you can actually teach your kids to drive in a manual. How cool would that be? Anyway, thanks for watching. Really enjoyed this car. And also, the other thing is, it's the same price as the auto as well. Bonus. See you next time.